Hello, and welcome back to another update as we cover the latest developments throughout the front line in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We have seen that the Israeli forces have launched an operation in northern Gaza where they are trying to isolate the city of Gaza itself. We're seeing that they are currently attacking from three different directions. In the northern parts by the sea, by the beaches, in the northeastern part straight towards Beit Hanun and Gaza itself, and then in the southern parts trying to cut off Gaza from the Nusayrat and Burej camps here to the south of Gaza and the river line in between the northern and southern parts of the Gaza Strip. So this current operation seems to be an operation where they are looking in the central part of the Gaza Strip to reach and cut off the southern parts of Gaza from the rest of the Gaza Strip, reaching the beaches and connecting with the forces attacking the northwest towards and through the beaches towards the center of the Gaza Strip, connecting between the two sides, and finally a third one from the northeast attacking directly towards the suburban areas of the Gaza city, where there aren't a lot of Palestinian forces in the area to defend. They are mostly focused around the city itself. So with this, we have seen that there has been multiple videos recorded of the sequence of fighting. We start off with this cinematic photo from one of the first nights where the Israeli forces were launching night raids against the Palestinian forces. Then we have the second picture here, which is a gathering of Israeli troops. It is a video where we see multiple tanks in the beaches, and then they gather up in a concentration where they are preparing to launch attacks towards the Gaza forces. And then we see this next one here, which is of a tank launching smokes constantly to cover for the infantry so that they're able to engage the Palestinian forces within Gaza, and a couple of tanks in a field providing cover fire for the advancing Israeli forces. We also have this picture here, which shows Israeli tanks by the beaches in the northwestern parts of the Gaza Strip, advancing through the beaches towards the city. We also have this yet another video showing more Israeli tanks on the outskirts of Gaza moving into the Gaza Strip and launching attacks from the northeastern parts. So with all of these videos and pictures, we see that the Israeli forces are launching attacks from these three different locations. And then the central part in the south of the Gaza city, we have this video here where we have an Israeli tank shooting at a Palestinian civilian car. We cannot guarantee who was in the car, but the one recording the video says it was a family of local Palestinians in Gaza, and this vehicle was shot here in the central part of Gaza, which was geolocated to be right here in the central part, right next to the Salahuddin Road, so somewhere in this area. So the Israeli forces have advanced in these empty fields to the south of Gaza city towards the main road, which is the Salahuddin Road that goes all throughout all of Gaza from the northern edge of the Gaza Strip and down to the Rafah border crossing. So this road is the main road of supplies for the Palestinian forces, and with this cut, there's only the road by the beaches. Other than that, if the Israeli forces manage to cut that as well, there will only be the tunnels between the two sides. So the current situation is that there is this river line that splits northern and southern Gaza Strip into two, and this river line here is exactly where the Israeli forces is looking to cut off the supplies between the northern and southern parts on the ground. And then we see that the Israeli concentration of forces is largely focused on the northern parts, but there's also a significant force here in the southern parts, central parts of the Gaza Strip. The advances in the northwestern parts of the Gaza Strip has also been geolocated, as is shown in this picture here, where we see an Israeli flag hanging from the outskirts of the urban area here in the northwestern parts of Gaza. So we're seeing that urban fighting has started. According to multiple sources, the fighting is very heavy. According to the Israeli forces, they hardly have any casualties. And according to the Hamas forces, they are claiming they have caused a lot of Israeli casualties, and likewise the Israeli forces report they have caused a lot of Hamas casualties, and Hamas claims they have barely any casualties. So we are seeing that both sides are using the standard rule of war, exaggerate their opponent's losses and underestimate your own losses for morale reasons. And while all of this is happening, we're seeing in the northern outskirts of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the direction of Lebanon that there are this video here which was released by the Hezbollah organization claiming that they destroyed an Israeli Merkava 4 tank with some ATGM weaponry. So we are seeing that generally the situation with the Israeli tanks, they have specifically 3 different ones that they use: the Merkava 3, the Merkava 4, and the Merkava 4M. The Merkava 3 and the Merkava 4 are both vulnerable to ATGM fire, while the Merkava 4M has a major advantage compared to the 2 other tanks, and that is that they have active protection system, which is the trophy system, so the ATGM missiles are likely to not hit the target due to the defensive system shooting them down mid-flight. About half of the Israeli Merkava 4 tanks have been upgraded to the 4M version, which means that about half of the total amount of tanks being used in this conflict are of the Merkava 4M variant. So this means that most of the tanks that the Hamas and Hezbollah fighters are going to be facing off against are the Merkava 4M. But this also means that most that they've destroyed so far are not of the Merkava 4M variant, and as such, the Israeli forces have essentially all of their best tanks still available. The weakness of these tanks are definitely going to be the unmanned drones dropping grenades or anti-ATGM missiles from above, as the trophy systems do not detect those as they're not firing, but once they land they'll actually hit, especially if they hit a weak point, that is when they are most vulnerable. And the second one is when they enter into urban fire, urban combat, we can see that they may be snuck up upon, because the weakness of these tanks is that the vertical vision of these tanks is very limited, because while they can go 360 degrees to the sides, they have a hard time going up and down. As such, infantry can sneak up upon it if it doesn't have proper vision, and vision is very limited in urban fighting. This is something I cover extensively in my video where I analyze everything you need to know about this ground offensive by the Israeli forces, which by the way has started despite the Israeli military denying it. The reason for this is that what we're currently seeing is the part 1 of the ground offensive, which is what I talked about again in my analysis, where they're trying to isolate Gaza City from the rest of the Gaza Strip by attacking from the northern side, isolating it from the sea, and from the central side, isolating it from the southern parts of the Gaza Strip by the river line. So with this, we see that this is the first step before they actually enter into Gaza proper. The next step will be to advance here in the northern parts towards the Gaza City itself and attacking from essentially every side, trying to isolate the local fighters from the rest of the peninsula. However, the biggest issue they are facing is the underground tunnels that go all the way down to 70 meters deep and are covered from top to toe with concrete, which makes them very difficult to destroy, even with the bunker buster missiles and bombs that the Israeli Air Force has available. So with all of this information, we can see that the Israeli ground offensive has indeed started. They have managed to advance in multiple parts, and the focus is now to isolate the Gaza City and try to reach the beach in the center and to connect it with the northwestern parts before storming the city itself and attempting to isolate the local fighters. If you want to know more about this ground offensive, you can check out my analysis where I go in depth, where I cover the previous invasions of the Israeli forces and exactly how this will go down, and everything so far is following my analysis to a T. So make sure to check it out. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.